Hi everyone. I'm already behind the gun. This is not funny. So we're gonna get 2 readings done today, but we'll separate them out. Yesterday was just a full-on trying to figure out what's going on because it was my first day back at work, and it was a long day. It was up early and home late with a gym session in between. So today we're going to do the reading for January 2nd. Right now we are reading from the Amplified Bible, and we will be reading Genesis chapters 4 through 7 because we're doing this in chronological order now. So let's do it. Now the man Adam knew Eve as his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. And she said, I have obtained a man with the help of the Lord. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept the flocks of sheep and goats, but Cain cultivated the ground. And in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. But Abel brought an offering of the finest firstborn of his flock and the fat portions, and the Lord had respect for Abel and for his offering. But for Cain and his offering he had no respect. So Cain became extremely angry and indignant, and he looked annoyed and hostile. And the Lord said to Cain, Why are you so angry, and why do you look annoyed? If you do well, believing me and doing what is acceptable and pleasing to me, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, but ignore my instruction, sin crouches at your door. Its desire is for you to overpower you, but you must master it. Cain talked with Abel his brother about what God had said, and when they were alone, working in the field, Cain attacked Abel his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he lied and said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's innocent blood is crying out to me from the ground for justice. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's shed blood from your hand. When you cultivate the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength. It will resist producing good crops for you. You shall be a fugitive and a vagabond, roaming aimlessly on the earth in perpetual exile without a home, a degraded outcast. Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me out this day from the face of the land, and from your face I will be hidden, and I will be a fugitive and an aimless vagabond on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore whoever kills Cain, a 7-fold vengeance, that is punishment 7 times worse, shall be taken on him by me. And the Lord set a protective mark or sign on Cain, so that no one who found or met him would kill him. So Cain went away from the manifested presence of the Lord and lived in the land of Nod, wandering in exile east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. And Cain built a city and named it Enoch after the name of his son. Now to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad became the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael became the father of Methushael, and Methushael became the father of Lamech. And Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He became the father of those nomadic herdsmen who live in tents and have cattle and raise livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He became the father of all those musicians who play the lyre and flute. Zillah gave birth to Tubal-Cain, the smith, and teacher of every artisan in instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say, for I have killed a man for wounding me, and a boy only for striking me. If Cain is avenged 7-fold, as the Lord said he would be, then Lamech will be avenged 77-fold. And Adam knew Eve as his knew his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. For she said, God has granted another child for me in place of Abel, because Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, whom he named Enosh. At that same time men began to call on the name of the Lord in worship through prayer, praise, and thanksgiving. This is the book, the written record, the history of the generations of the descendants of Adam. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God, not physical, but spiritual personality and moral likeness. He created the male and female and blessed them and named them mankind at the time they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and named him Seth. After he became the father of Seth, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. So Adam lived 930 years in all, and he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. Enosh lived 807 years after the birth of Enosh, and he had other sons and daughters. So Seth lived 912 years, and he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Kenan. Enosh lived 815 years after the birth of Kenan, and had other sons and daughters. So Enosh lived 905 years, and he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he became the father of Mahalalel. Kenan lived 840 years after the birth of Mahalalel and had other sons and daughters. So Kenan lived 910 years, and he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. Mahalalel lived 830 years after the birth of Jared and had other sons and daughters. So Mahalalel lived 895 years, and he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enoch. Jared lived 800 years after the birth of Enoch and had other sons and daughters. So Jared lived 962 years, and he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. Enoch walked in habitual fellowship with God 300 years after the birth of Methuselah and had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And in reverent fear and obedience Enoch walked with God, and he was not found among men, because God took him away to be home with him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. Methuselah lived 782 years after the birth of Lamech and had other sons and daughters. So Methuselah lived 969 years, and he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he became the father of a son, and he named him Noah, saying, "This one shall bring us rest and comfort from our work and from the dreadful toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord cursed." Lamech lived 595 years after the birth of Noah and had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now it happened, when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and the daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and desirable, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose and desired. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not strive and remain with man forever, because he is indeed flesh, sinful, corrupt, given over to sensual appetites. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. There were Nephilim, men of stature, notorious men on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God lived with the daughters of men, and they gave birth to their children. These were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. The Lord saw that the wickedness and depravity of man was great on the earth, and that every imagination or intent of the thoughts of his heart were only evil continually. The Lord regretted that he had made mankind on the earth, and he was deeply grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, "I will destroy mankind whom I have created from the surface of the earth, not only man, but the animals and the crawling things and the birds of the air, because it deeply grieves me to see mankind sin, and I regret that I have made them." But Noah found favor and grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, one who was just and had right standing with God. Blameless in his evil generation, Noah walked and lived in habitual fellowship with God. And now Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The population of the earth was corrupt, absolutely depraved, spiritually and morally putrid in God's sight, and the land was filled with violence, desecration, infringement, outrage, assault, and lust for power. God looked on the earth and saw how debased and degenerate it was, for all humanity had corrupted their way on the earth and lost their true direction. And God said to Noah, "I intend to make an end of all that lives, for through men the land is filled with violence, and behold, I am about to destroy them together with the land." Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make it in rooms, stalls, pens, coops, nests, cages, and compartments, and coat it inside and out with pitch. This is the way you are to make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits, or 450 feet by 75 feet by 45 feet. You shall make a window for light and ventilation for the ark, and finish it to at least a cubit from the top, and set the entry, the door of the ark, in its side, and you shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. For behold, I, even I, will bring a flood of waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, in which there is breath and spirit of life. Everything that is on the land shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your 3 sons, and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing found on land you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of fowls and birds according to their kind, of animals according to their kind, of every crawling thing of the ground according to its kind, 2 of every kind shall come to you to keep them alive. Also take with you every kind of food that is edible, and you shall collect and store it, and it shall be food for you and for them. So Noah did this according to all that God commanded him. This is what he did. Then the Lord said to Noah, come into the ark, you with all your household, for you alone I have seen as righteous, doing what is right before me in this generation. Of every clean animal you shall take with you 7 pair, the male and his female, and of animals that are not clean, 2 of each, the male and his female. Also of the birds of the air 7 pair, the male and the female, to keep the offspring alive on the surface of the earth. For in 7 days I am going to cause it to rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy everything that I have made from the surface of the earth. So Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood, of water came on the earth, covering all the land. Then Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him entered the ark to escape the flood waters. Of clean animals and animals that are not clean, and birds and fowls and everything that crawls on the ground, they came, motivated by God, into the ark with Noah 2 by 2, the male and the female, just as God had commanded Noah. And after 7 days God released the rain, and the flood waters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that same day all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the windows and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and it rained on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On the very same day, Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, entered the ark. They and every animal according to its kind, all the livestock according to their kinds, every moving thing that crawls on the earth according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, every winged thing of every sort. So they went into the ark with Noah 2 by 2 of all living beings, in which there was breath and spirit of life. Those which entered, male and female, of all flesh creatures, entered as God had commanded Noah, and the Lord closed the door behind him. The flood, the great downpour of rain, was 40 days and nights on the earth, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it floated above the land. The waters became mighty and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the waters. The waters prevailed so greatly and were so mighty and overwhelming on the earth, so that all the high mountains everywhere under the heavens were covered. In fact, the waters became 15 cubits higher than the highest ground, and the mountains were covered. All living beings that moved on the earth perished, birds and cattle, wild animals, all things that swarm and crawl on the earth, and all mankind. Everything on the dry land, in all whose nostrils was the breath and spirit of life, died. God destroyed, blotted out, and wiped away every living thing that was on the surface of the earth. Man and animals and the crawling things and the birds of the heavens were destroyed from the land. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive. The waters covered all of the earth for 150 days, or 5 months. And that is our reading for January 2nd, 2026. Thanks for joining me. There's a couple of really famous stories there to ponder and to think about, and though both speak to, I guess, the condition of the human mind, the human soul, but some things don't change, eh? Anyways, if you listen to this and you've got thoughts, write them down, ponder them, maybe put something in the comments. I hope you'll join me for January 3rd, which I'll do later on today. Until then, take care and bye for now.